Imagine standing in a luxury store surrounded by wealth, when suddenly a billionaire's card gets declined, the room freezes, cameras lift, whispers spread, but then a tiny hand reaches out the hand of a poor little girl, and what she does next reminds everyone in that room what real wealth truly is. When we hear the word wealth, our minds immediately jump to images of big houses, luxury cars, overflowing bank accounts, and the kind of lifestyle most people only dream of. Society has conditioned us to believe that the richer a person is in money, the richer they must be in life. But this belief, though common, is one of the greatest illusions of the modern world. Real wealth, the kind that matters, the kind that changes lives, the kind that people remember long after material riches fade, is not measured in currency. It is measured in character. It is measured in how we treat others, how we respond in moments of crisis, and how we act when no reward is guaranteed. It is measured in our humanity. Imagine the billionaire in our story, a man with access to every luxury imaginable. A man who probably owned multiple homes, businesses, and investments. A man who could buy anything in that store without a second thought. Yet in one unexpected moment, when his card was declined, his financial wealth became irrelevant. He was reduced to the same human vulnerability every person, rich or poor, experiences at times: embarrassment, uncertainty, and the realization that even he wasn't immune to life's unpredictable moments. This moment is important because it reminds us that money can fail, systems can glitch, cards can decline, numbers on a digital screen can lose meaning in an instant. But the qualities that define true wealth, kindness, empathy, generosity, never fail. They cannot be declined, deactivated, or depleted. Instead, they tend to grow the more we use them. Now picture the little girl. She owned almost nothing. Her clothes were worn, her shoes old, and her pockets held only a few coins that to her likely meant food, survival, or something essential. Yet when she saw someone in need, even someone far wealthier than herself, she stepped forward without hesitation. She didn't calculate her own loss. She didn't judge him or mock him. She didn't think about the imbalance between them. She simply saw a human being struggling and she acted. This is where the contrast becomes striking. The billionaire had material wealth, but in that moment lacked the one thing money cannot buy: help. The child had almost nothing but possessed the richest qualities of all: compassion and a willingness to share what little she had. The world often praises the wealthy for their donations, their foundations, and their acts of charity. But true charity, the purest form of giving, is when someone gives without having much to give, when someone helps not because they can, but because they feel they should. Her action forces us to rethink the entire concept of wealth. A person can own millions yet be poor in kindness. Another can own nothing yet give in ways that transform lives. Wealth does not lie in possessions, it lies in the heart. This point becomes even more powerful when we study human nature. People who have known struggle often understand the value of compassion on a deeper level. They know what it feels like to go without, to feel invisible, to be overlooked. That young girl, despite her hardships, had something that many billionaires spend their entire lives trying to buy, but never quite achieve: the ability to connect with another human being with sincerity. She didn't see a billionaire or a customer or a problem. She saw a person. True wealth is the courage to act with kindness even when the world expects nothing from you. It is the moral strength to help someone who appears to be above you. It is the refusal to believe that kindness should only flow from the top downward. The girl shattered that idea in seconds. In her world, helping someone was not about status or class. It was about humanity, and that humanity had a profound impact on the billionaire. In that moment, he felt something his money could never buy: genuine humility. For perhaps the first time in a long time, he was not the powerful one, not the helper, not the benefactor. Instead, he was the one being rescued, and who rescued him, not another wealthy friend, not a business partner, not someone with influence, but a child with nothing but a generous heart. This reversal of roles teaches us something essential. Power does not always come from wealth. Sometimes the most powerful act is a simple act of kindness. True wealth is measured by how we treat people who can give us nothing in return. It is revealed in the small moments when no one is watching, when no reward is promised, when no recognition is expected. The girl's gesture didn't make her financially richer, but it made her spiritually and morally wealthier than anyone else in the store. Her wealth was invisible but undeniable. In the end, the story reminds us that humanity is the greatest currency. It is a currency without inflation, without expiry, without limits. It is available to everyone, the poor, the rich, the young, the old. And the more we spend it, the more it grows. True wealth is not stored in wallets, banks, or vaults. It is stored in the heart, in the choices we make, and in the impact we leave on others. Humility is a quality often spoken about but rarely understood in its full depth. Many people mistake humility for weakness, shyness, or a lack of confidence. But humility is none of these. True humility is strength. It is the quiet power that allows a person to remain grounded even when they rise high. It is the ability to learn, to listen, to acknowledge one's mistakes, and to recognize that no level of success makes a person immune to the basic truths of being human. In our story, the billionaire represents a figure so many people dream of becoming wealthy, powerful, respected, and seemingly unshakable. A man who had spent years, perhaps decades, building an empire and earning the admiration of the world around him. People bowed in his presence, employees rushed to serve him, banks trusted him without question. When he walked into a room, he carried the aura of someone who had made it. But humility has a unique way of entering a person's life, often in moments that seem small, unexpected, or even embarrassing. The billionaire's card being declined might appear trivial to an outsider, but for someone of his status, it was a shock to the system. Not because he couldn't afford the purchase, but because it challenged the identity he had grown so comfortable with, the identity of someone who never faced such ordinary setbacks. This moment cracked his armor. It stripped away the layers of power, prestige, and privilege, revealing something essential. He was just as human as everyone else, and this realization, though uncomfortable, was the beginning of humility. Humility often begins at the point where ego ends. When the billionaire looked around the room, seeing the raised eyebrows, the uncomfortable glances, the silent judgments, he experienced what millions of ordinary people feel every day: vulnerability. It was a moment that reminded him that even the wealthiest person in the world is not beyond life's simple, humbling surprises. All the money, influence, and status in the world could not prevent a simple card error. But the real transformation began not with the decline itself, but with the reaction that followed the reaction of the poor little girl who stepped forward to help him. Her gesture was not grand in a material sense, but emotionally it was enormous. And it landed straight in the heart of the billionaire. Imagine the emotions rushing through him: surprise at her courage, confusion at her kindness, and disbelief that someone who had so little would offer help to someone who had so much. That single moment forced him to confront a truth he may have forgotten: that value does not come from wealth, but from character. Humility grows strongest when we recognize that wisdom, goodness, and greatness can come from anyone, even from those society overlooks. And that is exactly what happened here. The billionaire, a man accustomed to being the giver, suddenly became the one in need. And the little girl, someone society might label as needy, became the giver. This reversal was a powerful lesson in humility. It showed him that kindness doesn't follow economic rules. Anyone can be a teacher. Anyone can offer help. Anyone can lead with compassion. This moment likely opened a door in his heart, a door through which he could see the world from a completely different angle. The girl's act didn't diminish him. Instead, it enriched him by reminding him of something far more valuable than money: the importance of staying humble, no matter how high you rise. Humility transforms us because it removes the illusion that we are above others. It teaches us that success without compassion and openness becomes hollow. A person can climb the tallest mountain, But if they forget how to kneel down and help someone along the way, their achievement loses meaning. The billionaire's experience is not just the story of a card decline. It is the story of a man rediscovering the power of humility. If he had reacted with anger or pride, if he had shouted at the cashier or stormed out, the moment would have been lost. But instead, he allowed himself to feel the weight of the little girl's gesture. He allowed himself to be touched, to be humbled, to be taught. Humility is transformative because it breaks down the walls people build around themselves. Walls of ego, walls of superiority, walls of comparison. When those walls fall, what remains is our shared humanity, the simplest, most honest part of who we are. And in that space, real growth becomes possible. For the billionaire, this moment became a mirror reflecting his own life. Perhaps he realized how far he had drifted from the simple values he once held. Perhaps he recognized how success had made him forget the importance of small, sincere acts of kindness. Or perhaps it simply reminded him of what truly matters in the world, not wealth, but connection. Humility can transform anyone because it brings clarity. It reminds us that no matter how powerful, successful, or important we become, we are still human. We still need others. We still have lessons to learn. We still have room to grow. And sometimes our greatest lessons come from the least expected places, even from the hands of a poor little girl offering her few precious coins. Humility, once awakened, changes how we see the world. It opens our hearts, sharpens our awareness, and deepens our appreciation for the people around us. It allows greatness to be guided by gratitude, not ego. And when that happens, a person is not only transformed, they become truly worthy of the power they hold. We often grow up hearing that big changes require big actions, grand gestures, major sacrifices, or significant resources. Society celebrates the monumental, large donations, world-changing inventions, massive achievements. But in reality, some of the most powerful transformations in life begin with the smallest, simplest actions. A single smile, a kind word, a moment of compassion. These tiny sparks can ignite change far beyond what we expect. In the story of the billionaire and the poor little girl, the most extraordinary part is not the wealth, the embarrassment, or even the outcome. The greatest power lies in the smallness of the girl's action. She didn't donate a huge sum of money. She didn't plan a heroic rescue. She didn't perform a dramatic act. She simply placed a few coins on the counter, coins that had little financial value but limitless emotional value, and offered them with sincerity. This act was small in size but massive in impact. To understand why this moment is so powerful, we must first understand how human emotions work. It is not the scale of an action that touches the heart, it is the intention behind it. The billionaire had been surrounded by wealth all his life. People served him, respected him, and even feared him. But how many people truly acted kindly toward him without expecting something in return? How many people approached him with pure sincerity, without hoping for reward or recognition? The girl's gesture was different. It was innocent. It was genuine. It carried no agenda, no expectation, no calculation. And because of that purity, it pierced through the billionaire's pride in a way nothing else could. It made him feel something he had not felt in a long time: humble gratitude. We often underestimate the impact of small actions because we measure value in numbers. But kindness is not measured in currency. A small action done with a big heart can change the trajectory of someone's entire life. Think about this. The girl could have stayed silent. She could have assumed that a wealthy man didn't need her help. She could have walked away, but she didn't. And that single decision, that tiny moment, created a ripple effect that grew larger than she ever imagined. Her small action changed the billionaire's perspective on life, awakened humility inside him, moved everyone in the store, became a story people would share and remember, possibly changed her entire future when he offered to help her all from a handful of coins. This is the essence of how small acts create big impact. They may seem insignificant in the moment, but the ripple they create spreads far wider than we expect. Just like how a tiny pebble, when dropped into a pond, can send waves across the entire surface, a small act of kindness can touch hearts, shift attitudes, and inspire others to act with compassion. In a world where people are often overwhelmed by problems, poverty, inequality, conflict, loneliness, many feel helpless, believing they must do something huge to make a difference. But the truth is, you don't need much to matter. You just need heart. The girl didn't wait until she had more money. She didn't wait until she grew up. She didn't wait for the right moment. She acted because she cared, and that is a lesson for all of us. Waiting for the perfect opportunity often means we never act at all. But choosing to make a small difference now can create a change we never expect. Imagine if more people believed in the power of small acts. Imagine a society where people offered help before being asked, where people smiled at strangers, where people gave even when they had little, where people treated each other with compassion. The world would transform not because of billion-dollar projects, but because of millions of small daily gestures. The impact of small acts grows because kindness is contagious. When one person acts with goodwill, it inspires others to do the same. Someone witnessing the girl's kindness may go home thinking differently about generosity. Someone watching the billionaire's reaction may reconsider their own ego. The story itself may inspire thousands to be gentler with one another. The chain reaction begins with a single spark, and here is the most beautiful part. Small acts often reach deeper places than grand ones. Big actions can impress people, but small actions can touch their souls. Money can fix problems, but kindness heals hearts. And sometimes, the smallest gesture is exactly what someone needs to keep going, to feel seen, or to believe in the goodness of humanity again. In the billionaire's case, that moment may have been a turning point, a reminder that no matter how much wealth he accumulated, he could still learn from the smallest among us. That humility may have guided his future decisions, his interactions with others, and perhaps even his understanding of what success really means. The little girl, through her tiny act, demonstrated a universal truth. It doesn't take wealth to be wealthy in spirit. It doesn't take power to make a difference. It doesn't take age, status, or privilege to create change. It only takes kindness. And sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the biggest lesson of someone's life. One of the most powerful truths in human history is that kindness does not recognize rank, status, wealth, or social position. It flows freely across every boundary. Society has built boundaries of class, race, gender, education, and background. When kindness speaks, it speaks the universal language of the heart. And in the story of the billionaire and the poor little girl, this truth shines more clearly than ever. In that moment inside the store, two worlds collided. The world of a billionaire, polished, privileged, respected, and the world of a poor little girl, unnoticed, struggling, surviving. These two worlds rarely touch. Society builds invisible walls between them. People with wealth often live in comfort zones far away from poverty. People with very little are taught to respect, admire, or even fear those above them. These walls are so deeply rooted that many people never question them. But kindness has the power to break through those walls in a single moment. When the billionaire's card was declined, the walls around him suddenly became transparent. Despite all his wealth, he felt exposed, unsure, and vulnerable. And at that very moment, the little girl, someone from the lowest social rung, stepped forward with courage and compassion. Think about how astonishing that is. Most people in the store likely felt uncomfortable. They might have whispered quietly, judged silently, or stepped away. People often hesitate to help someone they see as above them, not because they don't want to help, but because they feel powerless, insignificant, or unworthy. Some might have assumed the billionaire didn't need help. Others might have felt it wasn't their place. Still, others may have been too shy or intimidated to act. But the girl didn't see those invisible social rules. She didn't see a billionaire or a powerful man. She didn't see a status symbol or a figure of authority. She saw a human being who needed a hand, and because kindness comes from the heart, not from position, she acted. This single act shows us that compassion is not limited by class. You don't need to be rich to help. You don't need power to show love. You don't need a title to make a difference. The girl had almost nothing material, but she possessed something far more valuable, the moral clarity to see beyond social barriers. Her kindness flowed naturally because she was driven by empathy, not by rules or expectations. She understood something that many adults forget. Every person, no matter how high or low, is equally human. Kindness is the great equalizer. When the girl extended her few coins, the labels of rich and poor vanished for a moment. The billionaire was no longer a wealthy man. The girl was no longer a child from poverty. They were simply two people sharing a moment of humanity. This moment reveals an uncomfortable truth. Social divisions are created by human minds, not by human hearts. Children, especially, are living proof of this. They do not judge based on status, clothes, careers, or wealth. They judge based on emotion: who seems sad, who seems hurt, who needs help. Their kindness comes from instinct, not calculation. As people grow older, society trains them to categorize others. That person is too important to approach. That person is too poor to learn from. That person is not in my class. That person doesn't belong to my group. These thoughts create distance. But kindness collapses all distance instantly. The billionaire, when he saw the girl offering her coins, was struck not just by her generosity, but by the fact that she crossed a boundary that adults rarely cross. He realized that the walls he lived behind, walls built from wealth, power, and pride, were not as solid as he thought. A child from the outside had reached through those walls effortlessly, all because her heart was bigger than the barrier. This is why kindness is transformational. It forces people to see each other without filters. In that moment, the billionaire didn't feel big. He didn't feel powerful. He didn't feel separate from the world. He felt connected deeply, unexpectedly, and instantly to someone he would normally have walked past without noticing. And that connection changed him. It reminded him that in life, we are not defined by what we own. We are not separated by what we lack. We are not divided by the titles society gives us. We are united by the humanity we all share. The little girl's act was a bridge between privilege and poverty, between power and innocence, between two very different realities. And once that bridge was built, the billionaire could no longer see the world the same way. Kindness does not care who you are. It cares about what you feel. It cares about what you're going through. It cares about what you need in the moment. And that is why kindness is the strongest force in the world. It reaches where laws, policies, and political systems cannot. It reaches the heart. No wealth can buy that. No status can block that. No barrier can survive that. In a world obsessed with divisions, rich vs. poor, powerful vs. powerless, kindness reminds us of the most important truth. We are all humans, and humanity belongs to everyone. In life, we are taught to hide our weaknesses. We are told to stand tall, stay confident, avoid mistakes, and never let others see us struggle. Society admires strength, confidence, and success, while weakness is often seen as embarrassing, something to be fixed or concealed. But the truth is far more profound. Our moments of weakness often reveal our greatest strength. These moments peel back the layers of pride, ego, and fear, allowing us to see who we really are and allowing others to see us with honesty. In the billionaire's story, his moment of weakness was unexpected and uncomfortable. A simple card declined, something that might seem small to most people, became magnified under the weight of his status. The entire room felt the tension. People watched. Some judged silently, others pitied him, and many simply felt awkward. For a man used to having the world at his fingertips, this was a rare moment where he had no control. And yet this moment revealed something much larger than a financial error. It revealed the truth that even the strongest, wealthiest, or most powerful individuals are not invincible. Weakness is not a flaw, it is a reminder of our humanity. The billionaire's reaction mattered more than the incident itself. He could have lashed out in anger. He could have shouted at the cashier, blamed the store, or walked out arrogantly pretending nothing happened. But he didn't. He stood there, fully aware of the eyes on him, feeling the awkwardness, the vulnerability, the sting of humility, and he accepted it. That acceptance is strength. Strength is not the absence of vulnerability. Strength is the ability to face vulnerability without breaking. When the poor little girl stepped forward to offer her coins, the billionaire's weakness became the door to his transformation. Her act didn't diminish him, it softened him. In that instant, he saw himself not as a billionaire, but as a person who needed help. For a man who was used to being the helper, the problem solver, the one others depended on, this shift was profound. And then came the most important realization. Accepting help is a form of strength too. Many people, especially successful ones, struggle to accept help. They believe it makes them appear weak or incapable. But accepting help requires humility, self-awareness, and emotional courage. It means letting go of the illusion of perfection and embracing reality. When the billionaire accepted the girl's gesture, even emotionally, he discovered a strength he had forgotten he possessed. The strength to be vulnerable, the strength to feel deeply, the strength to value kindness over pride. This is the power of weakness. Moments of weakness strip away the masks we wear. They silence the ego. They remind us that strength is not about dominance, control, or perfection. True strength is about openness, honesty, and the ability to grow from moments that challenge us. Consider how the billionaire might have lived before this incident, surrounded by people who respected him for his wealth, served by employees who never questioned him, protected by status, admired from a distance. It's easy for someone in that position to forget what vulnerability feels like. Life becomes predictable, controlled, and insulated, but that insulation can harden the heart. It can prevent a person from understanding others. It can close their eyes to the struggles people face every day. It can create a distance between them and the world around them. And often, the only thing that breaks through that wall is a moment of weakness, a moment that humbles, awakens, and reconnects a person with their core humanity. In this story, that moment was the card decline. But the moment of strength came when the billionaire realized what the girl's act truly meant. Her innocence, her bravery, her willingness to help despite having so little, it stirred something inside him. It reminded him that strength is not measured by power, but by emotion, not by wealth, but by gratitude. And sometimes, weakness is the only way to rediscover that truth. Small moments of vulnerability reveal our true character. How we behave when things don't go as planned. How we treat people when pride is bruised. How we react when life reminds us we are human. How we accept help when we least expect it. The billionaire's strength did not lie in his wealth. It lay in his response. He didn't hide behind arrogance. He didn't reject kindness. Instead, he allowed himself to feel something genuine humility. And that humility opened the door to connection, compassion, and change. The little girl became a mirror reflecting the strength he had forgotten. Her tiny act showed him that weakness is not a downfall, it is an opportunity. It is an invitation to grow, to soften, to reconnect with compassion, to reevaluate what truly matters. In the end, moments of weakness do not make us smaller. They make us real. And being real is the greatest strength of all. In a world where almost everything seems to have a price, from food and shelter to education and healthcare, it is easy to believe that money is the only true currency. People spend their lives chasing it, saving it, and measuring their worth by how much of it they possess. But there exists another currency, one far more powerful, everlasting, and universally understood: generosity. Unlike money, generosity never loses its value. Unlike wealth, it belongs to everyone, rich or poor. And unlike material possessions, the more we give, the richer we become. In the story of the billionaire and the poor little girl, This truth rises to the surface in the most unexpected way. A man who had more money than most people would ever see in their lifetimes found himself momentarily helpless when his card was declined. And in that moment, someone who had almost nothing offered everything she had. Not everything in terms of quantity, but everything in terms of intention, kindness, and courage. Her few coins may not have been able to pay for the billionaire's purchase, but they carried a value far beyond their metal and worth far beyond their number. Those coins represented pure generosity, the type of giving that comes from the heart, not the wallet. Generosity is a universal currency because it transcends circumstances. It is not limited by bank accounts, education, status, or age. Anyone can give, even when they have little. In fact, those with the least often give the most meaningfully, because their generosity is rooted not in abundance, but in compassion. When the little girl stepped forward, she was not thinking about wealth or social differences. She wasn't calculating whether her contribution was enough. She wasn't wondering whether she would get anything in return. True generosity is selfless. It is the willingness to give without expecting anything back. And that is what makes it so powerful. The billionaire, standing there in embarrassment and disbelief, felt something shift inside him. He had built a life based on financial success, investments, assets, profits, and deals. But in that moment, he received something priceless that money could never have bought: the generosity of a child. And what's remarkable is that her generosity changed him more deeply than any business transaction ever could. Generosity has a unique way of awakening something inside us. It reminds us that human connection is far more valuable than material wealth. It teaches us that giving is not a loss, it is a gain. When we give, we share a piece of ourselves. We create a moment of connection. We spark goodness in the world, and generous acts, no matter how small, often spread far beyond their point of origin. That girl's simple gesture created a ripple effect. It moved the billionaire emotionally. It touched the hearts of everyone watching. It inspired a lesson that would be remembered and retold. It may have changed her own life when he decided to support her future. All from a handful of coins, proof that generosity is not measured by how much you give, but by how deeply your giving touches others. The reason generosity is a universal currency is because it is rooted in the essence of humanity. Every culture, religion, and society teaches the value of giving. Every human being, regardless of background, understands what it means to receive kindness. When someone gives generously, barriers dissolve, hearts open, and trust grows. Generosity also has a remarkable power. It turns strangers into friends, moments into memories, and challenges into opportunities for connection. It can uplift someone going through hardship, restore someone's faith in humanity, or bring light into a dark day. What the little girl offered was more than coins, it was hope. It was empathy. It was the belief that she could help, even in a world that constantly reminded her of her limitations. Her action reminds us that generosity is not about giving what is easy to give. It is about giving what your heart tells you to. The billionaire, used to a life where money solved problems quickly and easily, realized that day that generosity carries a power deeper than wealth. Money may buy comfort, but generosity buys connection. Money may build houses, but generosity builds hearts. Money may create success, but generosity creates meaning. And then comes the most important truth. Generosity enriches the giver as much as or even more than the receiver. The girl gave a few coins, but gained a moment of purpose, courage, and pride. The billionaire received a small gesture, but gained a life-changing realization about the true meaning of wealth. Generosity uplifts both sides. When you give generously, you feel lighter, you feel connected, you feel human, and you feel richer in ways no currency can measure. This is why generosity is universal, because it speaks to a part of us that money can never touch, the heart. Another reason generosity is such a powerful currency is because it is limitless. Money can run out, savings can disappear, Wealth can vanish overnight, but generosity grows with every act. A generous person becomes more generous over time. A community touched by generosity becomes stronger. A world shaped by generosity becomes kinder. And once generosity is shared, it cannot be undone. The moment is eternal. The little girl's gesture will remain in the billionaire's memory forever. It will influence how he treats people, how he understands wealth, how he gives in the future. Her generosity became a seed that will continue to grow in ways she may never even see. This is why generosity is the most powerful currency in existence. It doesn't decrease when you spend it. It multiplies. So, as we look back on this simple but powerful moment between a billionaire and a little girl with only a few coins, we are reminded of something far greater than wealth, status, or pride. We are reminded that every human being, no matter how rich or how poor, carries within them the power to change a life. We are reminded that kindness doesn't follow rules, generosity doesn't check bank balances, and humanity doesn't recognize social classes. That little girl had nothing, yet she gave everything. The billionaire had everything, yet in that moment, he received the one thing he didn't even know he was missing. And that is the beauty of life. It is often the smallest hands that teach us the biggest lessons, and the quietest voices that speak the loudest truths. So let this story stay with you. Let it remind you that your worth is not measured by what you have, but by what you give. Let it inspire you to help even when you feel small. Let it encourage you to act even when the world tells you it won't matter. Let it awaken in you the truth that real richness comes from the heart. Because in the end, bank accounts may rise and fall, status may come and go, but kindness, pure, humble, courageous kindness, is the one form of wealth that lasts forever. And every single one of us has it to give.